I need a little advice on a situation that's been weighing heavily on me. I was 21 when my fiancé asked me to marry him. He was the absolute light of my life. We had known each other since preschool, and our families were very close. He would come over for dinner almost every day, and vice versa. He didn't have any siblings, but I have two older sisters, and he was also close with them. Growing up together, our parents celebrated our relationship like it was a big event. He helped me cope with my anxiety and stood by me when my mother berated me for gaining a little weight. He told her off, insisting he loved me for who I was, not for what I looked like. To him, I was the most beautiful girl in the world. We were only engaged for 6 months when the incident happened. My middle sister, let's call her Nicky, was a cold person. She rarely showed affection but opened up to my fiancé, seeing him as a brother. He helped her through some dark times, including battling drug addictions. We never saw eye to eye. I loved her because she was my sister, but I didn't like her as a person. Out of the blue, Nicky invited me to go clubbing, saying she felt bad for being distant. I agreed, even though clubbing wasn't my style. After a few drinks, I started to loosen up and enjoy myself. The night was going smoothly until Nicky spotted a guy across the room. She claimed she wanted to climb him like a tree. A few minutes later, she returned with a sour expression. When I pressed her, she told me the guy didn't want her number. He wanted mine instead. I reassured her that there were plenty of guys who would kill to be with her, but she was still upset. Nicky said she needed to use the restroom and that we would leave afterward. I waited for over an hour, sipping cocktails, and began to feel dizzy. Assuming she had left, I decided to grab a cab home. On my way out, I bumped into a friend of Nicky's, someone she had briefly dated. He offered to share a cab, and I accepted. As we got into the cab, I tried to find my phone in my purse, but the dizziness hit me hard. I blacked out, and the next thing I knew, I woke up on a hard sofa with a pounding headache. I realized I was at Nicky's friend's house, and my phone was dead. He explained that I'd passed out in the cab, and since he didn't remember my parents' address, he brought me to his place and laid me on the sofa. I told him I needed to go home because my fiancée would be worried. He called a cab for me, and when I arrived at my parents' house, I found my mother, father, Nicky, my fiancé, and his parents all waiting in the living room. I thought they were concerned about me, but as soon as I opened my mouth, my fiancé asked how I could do this to him. I was baffled. Why would he think that? I tried to explain what had happened, but he just kept screaming about how I had cheated on him. Nicky chimed in, calling me a liar and saying I was heartless to a man who had always been there for me. She claimed I had flirted with random guys all night and that when she went to the bathroom, she saw me leave with her friend. I told her what really happened, but she showed me a photo where it looked like his hand was on my back as we were leaving. I was so drunk I hadn't even realized. My fiancé was furious, shouting while our mothers cried. I asked Nicky to call her friend to confirm my story, but when she did, he told a completely different tale. He claimed I begged him to take me back to his place, and that we had slept together multiple times. I lost it. I knew Nicky had orchestrated this whole thing to make me look bad. I begged my fiancé to believe me, but he just shook his head and laughed. When everyone cleared out, my mother slapped me across the face and told me to get out. I left and stayed with a friend for a few nights. I called my fiancé, crying and pleading for him to believe me, but he never returned my calls or texts. My mother texted me, saying she was kicking me out and couldn't believe I would do such a thing. She threw my things out without giving me a chance to gather them. In less than a day and a half, I was homeless and single. My entire world had crumbled because of Nicky's lies. For weeks, I tried everything to get my fiancé back, and to reconcile with my family. The breaking point came at Christmas. I went to my parents' house hoping to mend things, but no one answered the door. A friend called to tell me she saw on Facebook that my family was in another state celebrating Christmas, posting pictures online. Everyone was there, my sisters, parents, grandparents, and even my fiancé and his family. Seeing those photos shattered me. I cried for days before deciding to block them all. I even returned my engagement ring. A friend knew someone a couple of hours away who needed help at his restaurant, and he offered me a place to stay. I wanted to start over, especially since no one had taken my side. I moved quickly and began working hard. I saved money and eventually rented a nicer condo. It's been roughly 2 years since I left, and I haven't spoken to my family. Then, one day, I got a knock on my door. It was my ex-fiancé. I was shocked. All those feelings rushed back. I almost slammed the door in his face, but stopped when he asked to explain. He told me that Nicky had gotten married and confessed that she had lied about everything. She realized what a horrible thing she had done. He said my family had been trying to get in touch with me and wanted to see me. I told him I needed time to think about whether I even wanted them back in my life. Now I'm a mess. I can't forgive Nicky. She could rot for all I care. But my family didn't know she was lying, and I feel abandoned by them for not letting me explain my side. I'm torn about whether I should forgive them. Any advice would be much appreciated. Thank you for taking the time to read.